Most of them break a law within the first 3 months. Most of them, we're on TV here, please. We're on TV, please. We're on TV, please. Okay, we're on TV, please. We're on TV, please. Okay, we're on TV, please.
What are you serving him with?
TV, please. We're on TV, please.
What are you serving him with?
I'm not accepting it.
What are you trying to serve? Ma'am,
we're on TV, please. We're on TV, please. Okay.
Oh, it's so chaotic. Everyone knows that if you're on TV, you can't get served. And also, I like the guy interviewing him who kind of just like wanted a scoop, like, oh, what are you serving him with? So that was the current candidate for Minnesota governor, which I actually forgot about, and the MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell, who attended CPAC in Dallas just to be served a lawsuit in the middle of a televised interview. There is so much more drama from CPAC with infighting between members of Congress and political commentators and even just regular attendees. But Cenk, what are your thoughts on what we've just seen?
First of all, I'm going to take that line from now on. If anything goes wrong, we're on TV, please. We're on TV, please. We're on TV, please.
Yeah, sure.
That's apparently a special shield. That's your personal Iron Dome. If you're on TV, nobody can do anything to you. I know from personal experience, not true. Okay, but the important part of this story, guys, is again the internal fight at CPAC. So the Republican Party is tearing itself apart, as you're about to see here.
Yeah, so conservative commentator Josh Hammer first bombed spectacularly in a fiery speech in which he accused Marjorie Taylor Greene, Megyn Kelly, and Tucker Carlson of being detriments to the current conservative movement. So let's see.
You'd be hard-pressed to find a single anti-American system or regime that Carlson has not, in fact, praised. By the same token, Megyn Kelly, whose insatiable appetite for clicks has overwhelmed whatever decent principles she purports to hold, had a curious guest for her first episode after the commencement of Operation Epic Fury against Iran. That was Marjorie Taylor Greene. In December, just prior to resigning in disgrace after Trump kicked her out of MAGA, Greene met with the radically anti-American Chinese Communist Party-funded group Code Pink.
Okay, but he didn't just have Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tucker and Megyn in his sights. He was able to direct some of his ire towards the other just conference attendees. Here's what he said.
Things in the administration, in short, are going pretty well. It is only when we look outside the administration to the conservative influencer class, those who dwell in Podcastistan, as some now call it, when we see things going perhaps slightly less well. Don't get me wrong, many of the biggest conservative stars are superb, and some of them are speaking at this conference. But some others are absolutely terrible, and a few of them are speaking at this conference too. Matt Gaetz, there's your shout out.
Oh my God, this looks like the most boring conference in the world. And I've been to that conference center, to the Gaylord Texan up in Grapevine. It's beautiful, it's a nice resort spot. Oh God, it looks so boring. And it also sounds like there's maybe like 5 people there in the audience. And I think what makes this moment compelling is that Josh's comments indirectly touch on the big elephant in the room that no one wants to talk about, and that is obviously the illegal war in Iran. On the ground reporting from the Washington Post found that most expressed a desire for the president to wrap up US involvement in Iran, even those who were supportive of his actions so far. Some said that despite wanting a swift exit, they support Trump's professed desire to free Iranians from an oppressive regime and trust his ability to handle the situation. Other young voters here were dismayed that a president who ran on ending wars has launched the US into a new one. So I think like the younger generations probably expect still that when politicians say they're gonna do something, that they're gonna do something, and maybe the older generation is already jaded. Well, polls do indicate that MAGA supporters remain supportive of Trump's management of the conflict, but will that hold with the newest generation of voters? It seems unlikely. So someone said he ran on no new wars. There is a new war, and that was 19-year-old Razi Marshall, who cast his first vote for Trump back in 2024 after he became eligible to vote. He said he ran on making stuff more affordable. Stuff is less affordable. So in my life, I would say overall, I'm less than pleased. I like the sass there. Jack Posobiec also weighed in on the growing generational rift, commenting that You see a big age split on this. He cited young listeners writing into his show opposing the war, while those over 45 are expressing more support for it. So the split does seem to be rupturing along these generational lines, and I can probably expect to see that gap even widening as we go forward. One of the more interesting developments of the story is that Trump himself actually skipped on attending CPAC for the first time in a decade, and basically he was just like, I'm too busy with my war. I'm golfing today, like that's what he's up to. CPAC maintains that its attendees trust Trump, but it doesn't sound like everyone there trusts Trump entirely. Cenk, what are your thoughts on all of this happening? There's always a big divide between the younger generation and the older generation, but this particular divide seems as though it could literally split the Republican Party a little bit.
Yeah, so reporting is that as Josh Hammer was speaking, it was about 90% empty. That's why it sounded so awkward and
so boring.
Silent. Yeah, and then you heard some of the hecklers there. I just want to ask the question: who the hell's Josh Hammer? Like, I don't even know who he is. He just popped up out of nowhere, and then all of a sudden he's like, everybody has to follow what Israel's saying. Okay, whatever, dude. You have no audience. You have no anything. You don't. Who are you? Why did this hobo walk into our national conversation? Oh, right, because he's backed by giant amounts of Israel First money. And so, and why does he have no audience? The brother is like Count Chocula, right? And so they think this is the guy who's going to win over the entire right wing, as opposed to Tucker Carlson, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Tom Massey, Megyn Kelly. Okay, so I'm going to use his language here. He said that those guys that I just listed, those people minus Massey, he called them the retard right. So the most popular right-wing hosts in the country, the right wing should not listen to. Instead, they should listen to Count Chocula, who showed up like a minute ago and is ordering you to follow Israel's commands. Okay, I view that as less likely, okay? So this is a rare thing that Posobiec is right about. The divide right now is 45, but it's moving up to 55 years old. And it's also exists on the left, less so on the left, but it's there. On the right, it's very pronounced. So why? Because people under the age of 45 get their news in online shows where, believe it or not, there's much better grasp on reality. If you watch a number of the different shows, any one show has plenty of things that are wrong with it and inaccuracies, etc. But mainstream media is an assembly line of propaganda and lies. So they think Josh Hammer is amazing. They think Mark Levin. And I'm not joking, guys. I've seen article after article in mainstream media saying the real leaders of the right are Mark Levin and Ben Shapiro and Laura Loomer. They have 3 people following them, between them, and it's those 3. Like, they're the laughing stock of the right now if you're online. But the people that watch TV have no idea what's going on online. So they hear Mark Levin and Sean Hannity and those guys, and they go, well, of course, beloved Israel. Israel is America. I need to get a second job to make sure I get money to Israel because they're saving us. They're saving Western civilization. So I despise mainstream media, and we've got to get everyone off of it, especially on our side. And you think, oh, MSNBC is good? No, MSNBC just put out the fighters of the left. Choose your fighter. They had a graphic on. There's only one guy that might run for president that was missing. You want to know who it is? Ro Khanna. Since Ro Khanna is actually fighting and is actually against the war and against Israel's influence, they're like, he doesn't even exist. They had like 30, like literally 20 people on there. They had Amy Klobuchar on there. She's not even gonna run. She's running for office in Minnesota as governor, right? And they're like, no. She's pro-Israel. Put every pro-Israel person on. Like, television is giant glop. To try to get you to comply with Israel's wishes. And it's not just Israel, comply with all of the donors' wishes and the rich and the powerful. So, and by the way, why is CPAC devastated now and people aren't going? And soon it'll be true in America Fest as well, which was the thing that TPUSA, Charlie Kirk ran, right? Now in the old days, they used to have tons of people. We'd cover it nonstop. It was gigantic, and we'd make fun of all the speeches, etc. But we cover it. The reason is they have super unpopular positions now, pro-Israel positions. So why don't they want more people to come to their conventions? Why don't they have a more popular opinion? Because it takes a giant amount of money to put on a convention. And who is funding both of those conventions? Israel first. That's why when I debated the guy who runs CPAC, Matt Schlapp, on Piers Morgan's show last week, Matt Schlapp was like, oh, we gotta do the war. The war is great. Our beloved Israel needs this war. That's the guy running CPAC, totally and utterly bought by the Israeli lobby. So the Israeli lobby is like, now remember, you young rascals, you're all retarded, okay? Shut up and vote for Israel and its wars. Oh, gee, I wonder why no one showed up for that speech. So that's what's happening in the right wing today.
Yeah, and CPAC is typically seen as a bellwether for the general state of the GOP. So it is interesting to look at what's happening there, the low attendance, the fact that Trump isn't even there anymore, the fact that they're giving speeches like these no-name people. Like, we gave him more of a platform than he's probably had before, Like, I've never heard of that guy, but I just assumed that I was the one who didn't know this guy, But they're speaking about things that they know are unpopular, and they're not going to drop it. In a lot of ways, similar to what the Democrats are doing. But as far as the generational divide on the left, it is interesting because a lot of the leftist people that I know, or Democrats that I know on the left, the older ones, I think they actually are more progressive than they realize just from the stances that they take. And once they are made aware of certain things that are more progressive, then they do tend to agree with those things. So it really is just a matter of exposing people to the right kinds of information and just getting it out there. And you don't even have to indoctrinate people. That's not what we're talking about here. It's just putting the information out there, say, educate yourself, ask the right questions. Because sometimes people don't even know what questions they're supposed to be asking based on what limited information they have to begin with. So my parents, they're boomer age, I guess, they're very progressive, so.
Yeah, super last thing. Look, again, the former media makes all the difference. The people who used to watch MSNBC now watch online shows like I've Had It podcast. And the I've Had It podcast is generally telling them the truth about Israel, about the wars, and about the Democratic Party and Democratic Party leadership. And that is really, really important. So when they see that, they go, oh, I see. These Democratic leaders and these corporate Democrats were never on our side. So once they got to the right form of media and got actual information and facts, it opens their eyes. So that's a beautiful thing, and I want it to happen on the left and the right and all across the country. And super last thing is, I debated Josh Hammer as well on Piers Morgan. And I said, you're doing all this for Israel. He's like, me, Israel had nothing to do with it. And then I said, look at the book behind you. And they were taking a one shot, and it was his book. And it was the giant title of the book, Israel. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.